Welcome to Australia as we go racing in Chapter 17 at the one and only Phillip Island. Bravery and skill reap big rewards at the mind-blowing track just over 100 kilometres from Melbourne. A paradise for nature and motorsport lovers that's dominated by sheltered bays, dramatic cliffs and gorgeous beaches. There is no place quite like Phillip Island on the calendar. It's time to race in MotoGP. So the Phillip Island circuit in South Australia is an absolute beauty, isn't it? A stunning, picturesque location overlooking the ocean and the cliff tops of the Bass Strait. 4.448 kilometres, 2.764 metres in length. It's fast, it's flowing, and it tends to serve up some of the best race action of the season. Of course, so many of the corners named after Australian legends. Turn 1. The Doohan corner off the high-speed Gardner Straight, turn 3, the wonderful Stoner corner, Miller corner turn 4, the very rapid sector 3, time to be gained through there, and then through turn 12. It's crucial to get that drive onto the start-finish straight. Most demanding braking zones, turns 1, 4 and 10. They offer good overtaking opportunities as well, and it could all be a time management Grand Prix, particularly through 11 and 12. Overtaking hot spots into 1, 2, 4 and 10. And this was where Johann Zarco inflicted some late pain on his teammate Jorge Martin to win the Grand Prix last year at turn 4. Coming up next then in MotoGP. After fighting through from 10th to 3rd in the sprint, the beast Enea Bastianini looks to get his teeth into another thrilling comeback. Marc Marquez started and finished the sprint second. Can the Spaniard do the business down under? After Pecco Bagnaya's sprint winning streak ends abruptly, the world champion needs to shine on Sunday from row 2. And after his last lap Phillip Island heartache in 2023, Jorge Martin goes in search of a priceless first win on Australian soil. So yesterday, as always, in Australia, in our first ever TISO sprint down under, there was high drama from lights out. Over 13 laps here in Phillip Island. There's an early mistake. Saw Marc Marquez almost ploughing to the back of Jorge Martin. The Grazini Racing rider dropped back to 8th place as Pecco Bagnaia looked in contention for the podium as he moved up into 2nd place by Marco Bezzecchi, but the world champion dropped back to 4th, passed on the same lap by Marc Marquez and Enea Bastianini. Then there was this super scary incident, one of the most terrifying moments of the season so far, the high-speed tangle in turn 1 between Maverick Vinales and Marco Bezzecchi. They both are fit for today's 27-lap Australian Grand Prix as Jorge Martin goes for the treble. Pole position yesterday, a dominant start-to-finish victory in that TISO sprint, and the Martinator in control of the MotoGP World Championship. 16 points he sits clear of reigning world champion Pecco Bagnaia, who's in fight-back mode once again, having taken the checker flag in 4th place at the end of yesterday's sprint. Happy to report after the washed-out Grand Prix action in Australia here 1 year ago. Of course, the Grand Prix here last year took place on a Saturday. Well, we have the best conditions of the weekend. And that is a breathtaking, jaw-dropping shot of the rugged coastline where this Phillip Island circuit sits. It really is a location that takes your breath away. It's certainly a circuit that takes your breath away. Arguably the ultimate test of rider and machine coming up over the next 27 laps or so. Certainly winning popularity contests here throughout the weekend is the home crowd favourite, Jack Miller, Red Bull KTM factory racing rider, who's had to deal with some wild weather and a lot of wildlife so far this weekend on home turf. Is Sprint Saturday. Well, there was a collision with a rabbit in qualifying and then a collision with a seagull in the sprint yesterday, which clearly hindered his performance as it got wedged in between his handlebar and his brake lever. Miller, a race winner on home soil 10 years ago now, back in Moto3 in 2014. Keep an eye on the Aussie as he looks to drag himself back into contention. He was in the point-scoring hunt yesterday. And as we mentioned, the Thriller is certainly not lacking support here in front of his home crowd. His fan club is based at Turn 4, of course, where it was named after Jack. What a moment that was. What an accolade that was for the Townsville rider 2 years ago here in 2022. 16 points then is the championship gap between Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia. Everybody you talk to in MotoGP today says that Martin is the overwhelming favourite to put the crushing disappointment of last year's late Australian Grand Prix defeat behind him. Matt Burton-Lewis to be in the commentary box. Simon Crafar down in pit lane. Lewis, this was a huge talking point of yesterday's sprint.
Yeah, and you can see there debris just showering Fabio Di Giannantonio up behind him. That's the piece that there hits him right in his injured shoulder, which is about to go and have operated on. He says it's damaged the plate that was inserted into his shoulder. Of course, the main damage was done for Marco Bezzecchi and Maverick Vinales yesterday. Incredibly, both have been declared fit for this Australian Grand Prix, which I think would have surprised us both yesterday had they told us that was going to be the case 24 hours on. Maverick Vinales, well, he goes from the front row of the grid. Marco Bezzecchi goes from 4th place. They were two riders who picked themselves up from crashes yesterday to take their place on this afternoon's Australian Grand Prix grid. Sadly, we can't say the same for Pedro Acosta.
No, unfortunately, Pedro Acosta has been declared unfit for this Australian Grand Prix. No bones breaking in that nasty high side he suffered in the sprint at Siberia yesterday, but some stretched ligaments and tendons in that left shoulder. He said it was very, very painful. He went for a medical check this morning, but no Acosta then in our feature Grand Prix coming up in about 45 minutes time. This was the crash, one of those real nasty, vicious off-throttle high sides in the cool conditions here yesterday. You know a rider is hurt when they don't quickly get back to their feet, and it's the left shoulder, unfortunately, which is ruling out the 20-year-old from action here this afternoon for Red Bull Gas Tech 3. We wish Acosta a speedy recovery. Of course, it was a double DNF from pole in Motegi, DNF in the sprint yesterday, and his absence from the Grand Prix here today in Phillip Island means it's been a tough run on our Asia Oceania tour for Acosta.
That leaves 21 starting this afternoon's Australian Grand Prix in the best conditions of the weekend. You have to say it has been a weekend where we've been watching the skies almost as much as we've been watching the action on the track itself. A cancelled free practice session on Friday morning, a drying practice session on the Friday afternoon, which Marc Marquez ended up topping. He then took advantage of the slightly iffy conditions in qualifying yesterday to put himself second on the grid. And how close was he to almost taking himself and Jorge Martin out at the start of the sprint yesterday? Well, this is how close.
Yeah, on the brakes they go into the Doohan corner, and Marquez just missing his braking marker, miscalculating where he needed to hit the front brakes, and that pretty much paid to his sprint victory hopes. Big relief for Jorge Martin, who saw on the big screens Marquez slip back down through the field, because Martin feared, he had predicted that Marquez was going to pose his biggest threat in that short format yesterday. But this was a typical Marc Marquez charge back through the field as he came through from 8th to 2nd. Lovely move this was on the inside of Pecco Bagnaia into turn 4. And then he was able to pick his way through on Marco Bezzecchi. This was all the drama before Bezzecchi and Vinales tangled at 150 miles an hour in the braking zone at the first corner. And as Jorge Martin took the checker flag in first place, the 25th podium of this stellar season for the number 89. It was the 17th podium of the season for Marc Marquez, and he finally got it right. That was a bit of a joke yesterday, wasn't it, for Marc Marquez? Reminded by his girlfriend Gemma Pinto as he put up the 3 fingers for P3 when of course he'd actually finished that sprint in 2nd spot. The world champion then, Pekka Bagnaia, who's already cut a somewhat frustrated figure so far on this Australian Grand Prix race day. There was a little bit of a tangle between the world champion and the Laser Spargo in this morning's 10-minute warm-up session at turn 4 this morning, and that dragged on for quite some time. They were having a rather heated debate, the pair of them. No great surprise, they saw the incident completely differently, but they were on the rider parade truck, and as we waited for all the riders to come to the truck, there was a good 5, 6, 7 minutes where, fair to say, the pair were chewing the fat over that one.
Yeah, there were plenty of other riders on the parade who had a keen eye on what was going on and trying to diffuse the situation. They were having a conversation in Spanish. If you want to know what they were saying to each other, MotoGP social media channels have posted a video with subtitles of what they were saying to each other on the rider parade. Suffice to say, as Matt said, that Pekka Bagnaia and Aleix Espargaro had opposite views of the incident. Bagnaia did end up, though, finishing that warm-up up in the top 3, which I think might give him some hope of a good result today.
I just love the likes of Alex Rins and John Zarco just sort of hanging around going, oh, what's kicking off here? Might just hang around and see this as Marc Marquez then. A 3-time Australian Grand Prix winner, 2015. Contentious one to say the least. That one, wasn't it? 2017, his last triumph here in Phillip Island 5 years ago back in 2019 as he poses for a few selfies on his way to the Grazzini Racing Garage. Well, it was a bit of an unfortunate sprint yesterday for Red Bull KTM Factory Racing, with both Miller and Brad Binder falling out of point scoring contention. Exciting times, though, for the Austrian brand, with Pedro Acosta, of course, moving into the factory team next year, and Aki Ajo moving in to lead the Mattinghofen brand's factory assault in MotoGP in 2025. A serial winner, of course, in 125s, Moto3 and in Moto2. I'd like to say Aki joins Simon now.
Yeah, so he's just getting a hard time, actually, from Paolo Campanotti, saying, Simon, why do you want to talk to Aki Ajo? He's got nothing to say. I disagree. Aki, I want everyone to know that you're one of my favourite men in the paddock to speak to. You know, I don't know how to put it, you're so straight. No BS, and I'm trying to say that as polite as possible, and I want the people to understand why, so I came to talk to you. You've got a big role coming up, and people are going to hear from you more. MotoGP team manager next year for KTM. So Aki, first of all, so that people get to know you, your career, your riding career before you became team manager, can you tell the people a little bit about that, where you started off, where you ended up, and the highlights on the way?
Of course, my riding career is not too much to say here in road racing. That maybe was even more in ice racing where I would like to talk. But road racing I was doing 1 to 5 many years in European Championships, only 1 GP, but never achieved what I was looking for. And let's say family was coming, everything in the middle. So it was, after one big injury, was time to really think what to do in the life. And somehow I decided in my mind that I want to be in this paddock. When I was not doing really enough as a rider, I wanted to do somehow something else. And I remember when I was in one big hip injury in hospital, I decided that I will make the team in this paddock. But I don't know if I even believe myself in this moment, and many people around thought that I am crazy. But luckily I was luckily I had lack of information or something, and I keep going, and finally it happened, and I'm thankful to work here already long time.
Just to reverse up a little bit, you said ice racing. Excuse my ignorance, I didn't realize that I had the pleasure of going to a world final ice race in Holland. It was a frozen arena. Neil Tuxworth, my team manager at the time, took myself and Colin Edwards, and we could not believe it. I really recommend people go and have a look and experience it like that, because it was sitting in a grandstand. They'd already had their practice and stuff, and it was a heat for the world final, and you see them take off for the very first time, go into that first corner, and Colin and I had the same reaction. We stood up going, no, they're all crashing, because I could not believe the entry speed and grip. Apparently, tell me if it's correct, but at the time I was told that it has the highest corner speed of any motorsport. So obviously crazy grip levels.
Actually, you are talking about ice speedway, and I was doing ice racing with motocross bikes mainly, so it's a little bit different, but also very nice and high-speed sport. And this we are doing a lot in Scandinavia, also they do in North America. For example, from this paddock, of course, Mika Kallio, my son Niklas, they were really specialists in that as well, and I was doing it since.
I've just realised this is the equivalent of dirt track elsewhere, but on ice because of the conditions of where you live.
There is something maybe between dirt track and supermoto if we want to compare a little bit, but even maybe a little bit higher speed and in both of them, and nice level, nice motion for the grip. Let's say very fun, I have to say.
So. What, I'm thinking about your career as team manager. Can you mention a few of the high points? Because there's so many of them, I don't know where to start. Winning world championships, obviously, and the riders that you've worked for and seen move on.
You know my style, that I am not focusing or looking too much to think if we win something or if we win the championship. So I enjoy every day. It's more about this, and that's what I always talk to the riders and my people and everyone, that for me, personally, the biggest win always here, that every day we have chance to learn more, every day we have chance to improve, and I'm, let's say, a little bit junkie for this, to improve every day. It's not possible, but at least we can try. And
but that's why I love you. That's why I love talking to you.
So lucky to have this chance still to do it. So enjoying.
So you're too modest to speak about all the world championships that your team has won. Okay, but okay, the favourite, like the most pleasure you've had working with different riders in your memory? You know, which riders have you thoroughly enjoyed working with?
It's, I don't know if it's fair to say, because and many people maybe expect that I tell some names which I had also chance to work, who are many times world champions or something, but also I don't rate it in this way. There is so many nice guys, and I think it's not fair to say some names, because I have at the moment so great guys in our team, and working great guys also as a manager still. As okay, I mentioned Jack because
Jack Miller.
I have worked with Jack so long time, and he's like somehow like my adopted son or whatever. So of course this has been really nice story as well. It was many challenge beginning with him and maybe with me as well, but we work, let's say, I think 11 years or something together, so at least I want to mention this.
Okay, I've got one more before I let you go. People are starting to walk up to the grid. Do you mind sharing, I mean, it sounds quite obvious how you work, but do you mind sharing how you see the team manager role?
My wife was mentioning for me a while ago that when we were talking about team manager role, okay, our team, and especially if it's different role in the future in MotoGP and this, that okay, you are going to check that all the processes are working well. I think she said it in a clever way.
Aki, like I said, love talking to you. I hope the people out there liked listening. Best of luck the rest of the season, but also in your new role, where we're going to hear hopefully much more from you.
Thanks a lot, Simon, for sure.
Yeah, thanks very much, Simon. Thanks to Aki Ajo. And there are the Aussie and Kiwi fans loving it. A massive
Give us a wave,
banner.
Simon.
Give us a wave, Simon, because we've got a huge
Big
banner
screen, mate.
in the grandstands. Thanks, Simon. There you go. Yeah, you've got a lot of love and affection out in the grandstands here, buddy. Yeah, give us another big wave. Go on, another big wave. There you go. Fantastic. Yeah, we're all going to miss Simon in 2025. Of course, not just Aki Ajo, who's moving on to a rather interesting new chapter in their careers in 2025. Yeah, how many lightweight world championship races Aki Ajo prevailed over? How many intermediate races and world championships has he won? Well, he gets to try and deliver on the biggest stage of all next season, overseeing Pedro Acosta and Brad Binder in the factory KTM team.
That's going to be quite the challenge, isn't it? And KTM, I guess, will be hoping that they can launch a real title challenge next season. The Title challenge this season, it appears, between two, Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. And Pecco Bagnaia needs to turn the tables big time here this afternoon with a lead now of 15 points. 16 points, should I say, for Jorge Martin over Pecco Bagnaia. Every point is crucial. And of course, for Pecco Bagnaia, he did have a pretty good warm-up this morning when he wasn't starting a feud with Aleix Espargaro, and when we go over double the distance, it does tend to play to Pecco Bagnaia's strengths, and boy does it need to today from his point of view.
You have to say there was not any particular confidence exuding from Bagnaia's demeanour when he spoke to the press here last night. He said Martin was playing with us yesterday. He could have checked out and won by, well, at one stage he was 3.2 seconds clear, Marc Marquez. Throttled off at the end just to nurse his Pramac Ducati home, take the checker flag in the sprint by 1.5 seconds. Was Martin toying with the opposition? Is he going to play with them again over 27 laps of thrilling MotoGP action coming your way in just under 25 minutes time? Just a quick reminder, of course, well, no great surprise here in Phillip Island. The weather has played a huge role in proceedings throughout this weekend. Friday morning's action in MotoGP was a complete washout. It was a wet and then damp start to the Saturday morning action. And with this new Phillip Island surface, this, you feel, is very much a big journey into the unknown. What will be the tyre pick? 27 laps. 3 riders yesterday did look at the medium in the sprint. Will the soft, though, go double the distance yesterday? Something to consider, considering a lot of riders that did use the soft in that sprint were reporting drop-offs from laps 4 to 5 onwards, which is very early on. Pecco Bagnaia and Enea Bastianini too, who said that they noticed a very notable early drop-off with that soft compound.
Well, I noticed looking through the lap-by-lap analysis this morning of the warm-up, just about every rider who went out on track this morning in the warm-up session put the soft rear tyre in. I thought a few more might at least try a medium just to get some initial feedback on it. So there are some riders potentially who might start this Australian Grand Prix running the medium rear tyre for the first time in this entire Grand Prix weekend.
And nobody needs reminding more than the pole starter and sprint winner Jorge Martin how crucial rear tyre selection is here in Phillip Island. Rewind 12 months to this very Grand Prix. Jorge Martin took the big gamble, he took the punt, didn't he, on that soft rear tyre. To his credit, he so very nearly made it work as he led for 26 laps and 4 corners before he got swallowed up late on. Zarco coming through to take his first victory in over 2,500 days. Bagnaia, the Gian Antonio, Bagnaia and Binder also picked off Jorge Martin late on. Of course, he was the big outlier as well last year. He was the only rider in the field that did go for the softest option rear tyre. Because of that new surface here this weekend in Australia, as a kind of conservative measure, Michelin did arrive here in Phillip Island with an increased rear tyre allocation, the soft, medium and hard compound. You do feel, though, it will be the medium that should be the preferred pick.
We'll get some early information in around about 90 seconds time when we show you the grid lineup. We'll get some early information as to who's starting on what. Well, a home Grand Prix in store for Jack Miller, who starts from 15th on the grid. He's talking now to Simon.
Jack, almost everyone in this paddock loves you, mate, and I would say the same about the crowd here, you know. Probably also the ones listening on telly. You're an awesome dude, always. So glad you could stay in another year. I want to know how you're feeling going into this one. I know it was a crazy one yesterday with seagulls in your fairing, etc. But how are you feeling?
Feeling good. Actually, on the sighting lap just now, there was a bloody rabbit on the outside of Stoner corner there, so I was like, get out of here, screaming at it. But I mean, it's awesome to be back here in front of the home crowd and to feel that home support. You know, these guys are amazing and been amazing all weekend. You know, it's back to regular, unlike last year, we're racing on a Sunday. That's nice, and putting a show on for these guys. So, awesome to be here, and awesome to be back again next year. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Jack.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, awesome to be back here in Phillip Island, and as always, awesome to hear from the 29-year-old Australian who's had his ups and downs down under so far this weekend. The 3 crashes, not all of them his own fault, you have to say.
Yeah.
Third place he was in 2019, third after Maverick Vinales crashed very late on.
Here's the early grid lineup then, and at the moment every rider on the front 2 rows is going for the soft rear tyre. Martin not alone this time from Marquez and Vinales. Bezzecchi, Bagnaia and Raul Fernandez on row 2. Perhaps the riders going for something that they know. Same on row 3. Morbidelli, Alex Marquez, who has a long lap penalty to serve, and Alex Rins. Enea Bastianini 10th. Could this be right into his hands if it's a tyre conservation exercise today? Brad Binder and Gian Antonio join him. Luca Marini had season's best 13th from John Zarco and Jack Miller. Augusto Fernandez, Joan Mir and Fabio Quartararo on row 6, and completing a grid of 21 this afternoon. Aleix Espargaro, who came from 20th up to 8th yesterday. Lorenzo Savadori and Taka Nakagami. And our initial information, this isn't the final choice, but the riders have at least gone to the grid, all of them on the soft rear tyre.
Yeah, go with what you know, and I guess that's the most important factor. At least they've got some data and information with the soft rear tyre. And if everybody's in the same boat, well, everybody's going to have to be managing that tyre over the full 27
Slower
laps.
pace than the sprint, you'd expect that.
Yes, I mean, well, we saw, didn't we, last year, Martin charge off like a scolded cat at the front of the Grand Prix, built up a lead of over 3 seconds. Can't see him adopt that kind of ploy, that kind of tactic this afternoon. Well, we saw yesterday Enea Bastianini charge his way through from 10th to a 4th successive sprint here in 3rd place. In a time management race, you can never rule out the beast. And what about Pecco Bagnaia, who struggled to the checker flag in 4th yesterday, trying to limit the damage maybe here this weekend in Australia, with Martin looking like he's got the better pace. Let's get some pre-race thoughts of the factory, the Ducati boss, Davide Tardozzi. Who's this, Simon?
He is. Davide, we missed you yesterday, didn't get your thoughts. I really would like to get your thoughts going into the big main GP Phillip Island this afternoon.
Yeah, I guess that the top guys that will play for the podium will be the same. I think that Jorge and Mark shows that they are really nice speed and good speed, while Enea will be there too. But I think that we make the right adjustment on Pecco's setup of the bike, and I think that Pecco too will be there.
Just curious, last night he said they went the wrong way, you know, him and the crew. He liked going back the other way this morning at warm-up?
Yeah. The warm-up shows that the bike is back on the normal situation, and Pecco is confident on the front. That wasn't yesterday, mainly on the brake and entrance of corner number 4 and number 10. I think that today the top guys will be again Jorge and Mark, but our 2 guys, Enea and Pecco, will be there.
I have to ask you one more thing, and that is tyres have always played a role here in past races, and we have a new surface, very little info apart from the sprint really. Your thoughts on that, on the soft rear management and the medium rear?
I think that everybody will be with hard front and soft on the back. I think that they have to manage the spinning of the rear tire, but I guess that the main problem will be in the end of the race with the front tire. So they need to manage in the beginning of the race the entrance of the fast corners for the front tire.
Thing you very much, Davide.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Simon. Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. Yes, so much for the riders to contend with over these 27 laps. That high-speed sweep through turns 11 and 12 before you power onto the 6-gear Gardner Straight. Those 2 left-handers can generate the highest temperature in those Michelin tyres, particularly on the left-hand side. It's worth noting as well, of course, that in our increased allocation for 2024's Australian Grand Prix, the soft rear tyre that everybody is running here today, or plans to run here today, was the medium option here last year. So they do have actually...
That won the race.
Yeah, they do have a lot of information, although we have to, again, point out that that was on a different asphalt at a different time. Well, Marc Marquez then, yesterday, felt like his victory hopes were over at the very first corner of that 13-lap TSO sprint. Got his head down, though, and produced yet another stunning charge through the field, 8th to 2nd place. Can he go one better and win in Phillip Island for the first time in 5 years? Well, let's get the thoughts of the boss, Michele Massini, who's with Simon.
He is. Michele, it's so nice to speak to you up in the front of the grid for a change. And it didn't go well on the first turn yesterday, but it looked like if it did, Mark would be right there. Of course, we never saw Jorge pushed at what he had left, but it feels like Mark really can be there.
Yeah, finish from Jorge only 1.5 seconds after go in 8th position and recover everything. Means that today, if we can start and keep the contact with Jorge, we can fight for the win.
I have one more question for you, and that is, Mark is the most experienced rider here in the front fight, and this is a lot about tyre management this afternoon. I'm sure that experience is going to come into play. What do you think? Basically his race tactics, how he prepares, I've seen over the years, are second to none.
Yeah, you're right, but I think that for today the only strategy that we have to keep it don't lose meters from the leader. So and later the track condition we still changing a bit. Also the tires spin a lot with all the tire on the tarmac, but I think that we can manage well the tires until the race.
Fantastic news. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Michele Massini. Just as we were hearing from the team manager, Cassini, you saw a reminder of what we told you when the grid came up of Alex Marquez's long lap penalty. Just in case you've forgotten, the explanation for that is the first corner or first lap incident, which saw both Alex Marquez and Joan Mir eliminated from the Japanese Grand Prix on lap 1. So can Jorge Martin complete the Phillip Island double? He goes from pole position. His team manager Gino Borsois with Simon.
Gino, you were doubtful that Jorge could run away yesterday. He did. Can he today?
Well, for sure, he did amazing job today, qualifying and race. But we know today is different. Today is different because the soft on rear is the best choice. But you have to be smart. Everybody have to be smart. Try to save the tire at the beginning. Don't push so much because otherwise at the end you are over the game. So we know Pecco is back. We know Pecco is back because we saw the data, we saw the warm-up today, he found something. We made just some adjustment this morning to help the rider to be a bit more relaxed on the bumping, and I hope it's working because from the warm-up the feedback from the rider was okay. So let's see the race. Important, as always, of course, start. Let's see if we are able to make a good start and then race by race, lap by lap.
Everyone's talking about the rear tyre management, but Davide Tadozzi mentioned basically over this distance, which we haven't seen before this weekend, the front tyre will come into play. For Jorge as well?
Could be the front tire too, but we used it this morning in the warm-up, the tire of the race of yesterday. So we make a really long run. I think we were the only one with the old tire on it, and the pace was so good. He never complained about the front, just a bit about the rear. You have to manage at the beginning, as I said before, and that's it.
Great news. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Well, Pecco Bagnaia fans might have enjoyed hearing that interview. Here is the world champion, Gino Borsois, from the data they've seen in warm-up this morning. Pecco is back and might well feature in this battle for the victory this afternoon. Bagnaia, of course, starts from 5th on the grid in between the two Pramac Ducatis. Jorge Martin on pole, Frankie Morbidelli just behind Bagnaia in 7th place. 16 points the margin. What kind of advantage, if it is indeed an advantage, will Jorge Martin take into Buriram next weekend, where of course he doubled up last year? Sepang, of course, the penultimate round of the season in a couple of weeks' time, and will it all go down to a final round showdown for the 3rd consecutive year and the 2nd consecutive year between Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin? Brad Binder, is he going to be involved in the battle at the front? Of course, he was in that top group for periods yesterday. He crashed out in the latter stages while we were all catching our breath from what happened between Bezzecchi and Maverick Vinales. DJ Carl Cox, a known MotoGP superfan, and if you are a super fan of this particular sport, then the grid at Phillip Island is pretty much your idea of heaven.
Yeah, Carl Cox is hosting a post-race party here. There'll be some banging tunes there, and who will be calling the tunes here this afternoon then, over 27 laps here in Phillip Island, as we take a pause for the national anthem of Australia.
It's coming up in around about a minute's time. Jorge Martin on his way back to the grid. Pecco Bagnaia, who, as mentioned, Gino Borsois says he is back this afternoon. Pecco Bagnaia will certainly hope that Gino Borsoi is proven right. Yet to taste victory of any kind here at Phillip Island, the reigning world champion. Of course, lost 6 points to his chief title rival yesterday. But Bagnaia, who seems to have calmed down somewhat after his rather angry exchange with Alicia Sparker earlier on, clearly feels he's got a much better shot than he had 24 hours ago.
Yeah, good to see the smile back on the world champion's face there, despite he's facing his lowest qualifying since he was 7th at the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez. Marc Marquez, and does look like he's going to be the biggest threat to Jorge Martin's hopes of a first double in 12 since he was at the double at Le Mans. That was a classic late battle in the French Grand Prix, wasn't it? In front of MotoGP's record crowd between Martin, Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. More of the same, gentlemen, please, with maybe a few more thrown into the mix as well here in Phillip Island, as we will now take a pause for the Australian national anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by seas, our land abound in nature's gift of beauty rich and rare. In history's page at every stage had once Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, had once Australia fair.
So Kylie Cohen there with a beautiful rendition of Advance Australia Fair. There's plenty of celebrity MotoGP fans down on the grid. Mark Webber's here, we've just seen Carl Cox, and now we can join Hollywood star Eric Banner, who is with Simon.
He is. I saw Eric here, had to come and say hello because listen to a podcast you're on. I know that you're into your big V8 cars, obviously love the bikes. I'd love to know what you think of MotoGP in general.
Oh, I just love it. I just have so much awe and respect for the riders and the risks they take, and I just love the camaraderie of the MotoGP and motorcycle paddocks in general around the world. They're just, you look at our podiums and they're so different to F1 podiums. You know, I just love it. And this track in particular, boy oh boy, it is so cool.
You've spent some time on this circuit?
Yeah.
On anything or in anything?
Yeah, this is my home track. So I've been coming here doing ride days for about 30 years. So yeah, I'm so lucky. It's an hour and a half from home and I'm spoilt rotten and I just love it.
Then I've got to ask, what bike?
I've got a 1299 that I run around here at Panigale. Had a 748 RS before that. So yeah, I just love it, Simon. Absolutely love it.
Eric, thanks for your time. Enjoy the day.
Thanks, mate. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks to Eric Banner. Some message then from Piero Taramasa. Race pace expected to be very high. All riders on the soft rear tyre, which should remain constant to the checkered flag, but you do have to be wary. You're going to have to manage it.
Key disclaimer there from
Yes.
Piero Taramasso. You cannot gun it from the start here this afternoon and expect to have the grip at the end of the race.
Are you listening, Jorge Martin? Are you listening, Pramac Ducati? He bolted at the front here, didn't he, last year, Jorge Martin, and it was a tactic that was close to paying big dividends. He led until turn 4 on the last lap before it all went horribly wrong. Great to see Maverick Vinales lining up on the front row of the grid after his big scary crash on the run down to Dewan Cornwall. He was fighting for 4th place in that sprint yesterday. Let's get some thoughts from the boss, Paolo Bonora.
Paolo, your machine obviously working well. Phillip Island, both Raul Fernandez and Maverick going well. I'd like to know your thoughts, this longer race, tyre management, and Maverick, is he okay after yesterday?
Yeah, Simon is okay after yesterday, fortunately. Today is for sure more hotter compared to yesterday. It's not a lot of temperature more, but it seems to be that the tire will work in a better range for sure. And most of the rider will be on hard on the front and soft on the rear. here is a particular track, so we have to keep the tire until the last lap. So will be an advantage for the rider if they can manage in the first part to gain the last.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Paolo Bonora. Gino Borso, then Pramac Ducati boss feels Bagnaia is back in the game. Well, we're about to find out, aren't we? Because we're just under 5 minutes away from lights out. You can hear the klaxon sounding off in the background. That's the signal for the grid to start clearing here. A grid that will see Jorge Martin firing away from pole position, his 7th pole of 2024. Can he complete a 5th treble of pole, sprint and Grand Prix victory? What a time it would be for him to notch his first treble of the season at such a late crucial phase to build. Potentially could be leaving Australia with an advantage of over 20 points clear of Pecco Bagnaia, and there'll just be 3 rounds remaining in Thailand, Malaysia and in Valencia in mid-November.
Pecco Bagnaia said at the start of the weekend it's not mandatory to necessarily gain points or even take the World Championship lead here this weekend from Jorge Martin. What he did say though on Thursday to me was that it's impossible for me to make any more mistakes. A mistake at this stage of the season, given that he's already 16 points behind Jorge Martin, could spell serious trouble for his world title defence. Of course, the aim for Pecco Bagnaia today is to win the Australian Grand Prix and to gain ground on Jorge Martin. But with 4 weekends to go, one more mistake could be crucial.
And as Bagnaia styled it himself, it's been, from a personal point of view, a championship of mistakes. Sentiments echoed by Jorge Martin in the pre-event press conference on Thursday. He said a DNF at this stage of the season, well, that would be a disaster. Certainly more of a disaster, you feel, for Bagnaia than Jorge Martin. Martin going to Buriram next weekend, of course, where he had an absolutely outstanding Grand Prix there at the Chang'an International Circuit last year. He did complete the treble there 1 year ago. So if he's got a big buffer going to Buriram next weekend, you do feel like the pendulum swinging towards the Martinator in terms of glory in the championship this year. The safety car then peels away from the front of the grid.
Of course, we have seen in the previous years championships take a big swing here. Raul Fernandez perhaps wary of the wind that's going to be hitting the riders this afternoon, although we're not expecting it to be quite as high as it was yesterday. He's going without any wings on his Aprilia.
Very interesting tactic that, isn't it, from Trackhouse Racing. So the double by the GP world champion, still firmly in the hunt for the hat-trick. Pecco Bagnaia fires away from 5th place on the grid. Your front row though features Maverick Vinales back after that high-speed crash at Doon Corner yesterday. Marc Marquez in 2nd place, but can Jorge Martin take the victory from pole?